Hi, my name is Michael Poley, and I've never seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer. My friends are obsessed and always make jokes and references to it, and so now, 20 years later, I've been convinced to watch the show from beginning to end, one episode a week. I'm a Buffy virgin.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Buffy Virgin. We are watching Bad Girls, Season 3, Episode 14. We have with us, as always, Michael the Virgin Poley.
Hello, so happy to be here. I've only seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer up to this episode, Season 3, Episode 14. I don't know what happens next. I'm so excited to talk about this episode.
We have Travis with no last name.
No last name. Such a shame.
And we have John, the Teach Landis.
Good evening, everybody.
And we have a special guest, cartoonist Rachel Dukes. And I will read her bio right now. Rachel hails from San Diego, California, a graduate from the Center for Cartoon Studies. She works as a cartoonist and illustrator and is the creator of the cat-centric webcomic Frankie Comics. Her work has also appeared in several anthologies, including Beyond, Oath, Bottom Up, As You Were, and Timorous Beasties. Clients include Brain Quest, College Humor, Boom Studios, Lion Forge Comics, and The Nib, among others. All right, how are you doing, Rachel?
Wow, you're really slumming it on this podcast.
Thank you for coming on.
Well, we should list all our clients too, right? That we can make this as intimidating and weird as possible.
John Landis teaches for the Philadelphia School District.
Philadelphia!
All right, so we are going to start this week's episode with a new section we're calling Reactions, which is our reactions on social media for the week. So Mike, why don't you start us off?
Sure. So I received this reaction through a text message from a listener to the show, Audrey, who we need to have on as a guest sometime. But she was so moved and frustrated by our consideration about Cordelia not knowing about the Marx Brothers except for Xander's influence. And she said, hey, Cordelia can discover comic books on her own without a boyfriend or a dad to introduce it. It's a common assumption, a question that guys ask women in comic book stores. So they all assume that, some male introduced you into comics, and that's not the case.
I think this is in reaction, not so much to the Marx Brothers comment, but to something that I said about Cordelia making a comment about Jimmy Olsen. Mm-hmm. And I was a little incredulous that she would have that Superman reference to drop. I believe that's what this is in reference to.
Well, I totally also said the thing though, like, oh, she probably knows about the Marx Brothers because of Xander.
Okay.
So I think
I think in either case, like, I think she's totally right. This is a thing. I mean, this is a thing that male geeks use to bully lady geeks, and I'm embarrassed to be called out for it. And I think that she's not wrong. And we'll try to do better. I'll try to do better.
Stop assuming that women don't know about comic books.
I was not on that episode.
I don't know how.
I want to save face. I wasn't on that episode.
I'd say I haven't done the math on this, but I think a majority of cartoonists I actually know are female. That's my math. I don't know.
Dennis math.
I don't know. But we had some good Twitter reactions also. Rachel, you tweeted about how you thought Michael McKean was on Buffy, but it's Harry Groener, and Michael McKean responded.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Amazing. Well, because, I'm a fan of the show. I watched it as a teenager. I've watched it as an adult. But, in my subsequent rewatching over the last, decade, I'm not really watching it. I'm listening to it. And so my brain completely recast. And I thought it was Michael McKean for the last decade. And so rewatching the episode for today, I was like, what? It's not him? And so I tweeted about it, and he actually replied, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So wait, one of two things is possible. Either Michael McKean is searching for himself or, paying attention to his own.
He was added on it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I choose to believe that he follows at Buffy Virgin Pod.
He does now. No, and we also had I posted a photo. Posted a drawing from last week and I tagged Nicholas Brendan on it, and he liked it. So
wow.
That's our first official interaction with any of the cast.
That's awesome.
Pretty amazing.
Busy Twitter week. Yes.
Can I tell a story?
Go ahead.
My mother used to work with him.
Really?
He used to be a waiter at a restaurant up here in Beverly Hills called Kate Mantellini. And he was historically the worst waiter that they ever had. And he was auditioning as an actor, and he got the role for Xander. And he was like, all right, everybody, I'm out. I'll see you later. And they were like, oh, whatever. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And then 6 months went by and his face was on the side of buses.
Was it his dyslexia that made him a bad waiter, or was it...
Who's to say? I mean,
Yeah, no,
definitely.
Yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah, it makes sense that he would be like the worst waiter. That is like they probably were weighted
How
on.
does it make sense?
He's just a terrible waiter. He'd
never
make
like
a perfect
anything.
Xander. All right, we want to move on to summary. Our summary this week is provided by John Landis. Do we have this queued up?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Season 3, Episode 14, Bad Girls. Buffy and Faith are vampire-slaying buddies. They fight together, stake together, and talk about the deep issues together, like whether it's acceptable to sleep with your platonic friends who behave like total creeps all through the first 2 seasons and have only marginally improved since then. Beset by some anachronistic-looking vampires, the Slayer set swiftly slaughter several suckers of the sanguine stuff from some sword-swinging sect, and find an exciting necklace that they have left behind. When they return to ask what's up with that, it's new character time. It's Wesley Wyndham Price, the new Watcher, and he's here to prove that it is possible to out-Stuffy Giles. He immediately identifies the necklace as the property of Balthazar, a demon that no one needs to worry about since he's totally long dead, and identifies the new vamps as members of the Eliminati cult. That's Eliminati with an E.
If you feel that Buffy Virgin is not treating the Eliminati as a serious subject, please direct your Twitter comments and complaints to @BuffyVirginPod.
It seems that Faith's visceral enjoyment of slang is starting to rub off on Buffy. It's all she can talk about, even during the chemistry test. In fact, Faith arrives during said test, as if summoned. It seems that Slayer bonding has made BFFs out of B and F. Breaking the bonds of school, the two of them raid a vamp nest. Having handily defeated them, the Slayers celebrate their revved-up Slayer sensuality with some hard dancing at the bronze. That is until Wesley and Angel show up to put a big damper on things. The demon Balthazar isn't dead after all, and Wesley's been walking around with the amulet in his pocket the whole time. Buffy should have sent it to the Marx Brothers. Getting together a plan to attack Balthazar at his hideout, Faith decides it's a good idea to rob the local sporting goods store of its crossbows, knives, and nunchucks. Buffy's pretty sure that stealing is wrong, but, peer pressure can be a son of a bitch. And so are Sunnydale's finest, who mistake our heroes for members of a girl gang. Buffy and Faith play along with the arrest me game for just a moment, but ultimately end up breaking out of the police car and crashing it in the process. Meanwhile, Sunnydale's evil mayor is getting sick of Balthazar and the Eliminati playing around in his town. He plans to pit Buffy against them, reasoning that the enemy of my enemy might kill my enemy, thus saving me the hassle. And it seems to work. It's all-out war on the streets between the two Slayers and the Eliminati. Vampire after vampire is getting staked until Faith accidentally stakes Alan from the mayor's office. Who would have thought the office intern to have so much blood in him? Buffy and Angel manage to kill Balthazar, rescuing the bumbling Watchers in the process, but something has changed. Faith has killed a human. Buffy says they need to deal with the consequences, but Faith? She just doesn't care.
Excellent summary.
Good job, John.
Dennis,
Excellent wordplay there.
I feel like I've called Faith a bad girl on this podcast before, and I feel like you have too. I totally forgot there was an episode called Bad Girls.
Oh yeah.
How long until that static transition makes no sense? Probably 5 more years, right? No one will remember the static transition. That feels like an MTV staple, from the 90s. Anyway, that was lovely.
It'll be replaced with some other digital noise, though, right?
Oh, yeah. I see it all the time now in all the, Casey Neistat vlogs. He just has, digital noise kind of, creep over the screen.
Yeah. All right. On to Great Lines, where the rule is you have to do the impression also. Which I didn't tell you about before, Rachel.
I'm going to disappoint you, and I'm just going to read it in my own voice.
Very well. I have the first one here. All the sweaty night by night, side by side action, and you never put it in for a little after hours. I'm glad I made everybody uncomfortable with that.
Thanks, Devis. Yeah, so my favorite is just an exchange here with the mayor, the Trick, and the deputy mayor. It's like, oh, do you like Family Circus? I like Marmaduke. Oh, he's always on the furniture. Unsanitary. Nobody's telling Marmaduke what to do. My kind of dog. And then, basically unsolicited, the deputy mayor's like, I like to read Kathy. No response. It's awesome.
Is Kathy still in circulation? That was my other thought. Was like,
I think so.
Yeah. It's
I think all of those comics are. I think Marmaduke, Family Circus, and
Correct.
Kathy are still
Marmaduke
going around.
Definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Family Circus for a long time has been done by Bill Keene's son. I don't know which one, because the other son works as a Disney animator. So he's actually like pretty talented.
I saw him speak just a few months ago. Gil Keane. He's amazingly inspiring.
Really?
Yeah. He developed like the Aladdin character and the Tarzan character. Anyway, he's great.
Cool.
John, we can't hear you, John. Are you muttering?
I'm muted. Sorry. I was going to ask if this was the time, Mike, for you and I to tell our Bill Keane story.
Oh, the
Let's
only
do it.
time. Yeah. John and I went to go see Bill Keane at a book signing at Books and Company in Dayton, Ohio in the 90s.
This was 1999 or 2000. It was 2000. I think we were seniors in high school. I had just gotten dumped on Instant Messenger the day before and was sad.
AOL Instant Messenger.
Yep.
And,
The only instant messenger.
And I think we were the only people that didn't bring like books with all of our Bill Keane illustrations, all the snow strips cut out. And, like,
It was a bunch of old ladies. We were like really excited.
And my favorite part that I remember, and this seems crazy, but like Bill Keane literally said nonsense words that sounded as if it was like he was saying something important. It was crazy.
It was really bizarre. He gave a whole talk about his history as a cartoonist and like what the work, what he does. And, basically a lot of it was about how easy it is to be a cartoonist and how he doesn't really work that hard at it. That was a big, I remember that was a big part of it, about how he has all of his ideas already out on note cards and he has enough for the rest of his career. And he pulls one out and draws a comic and each comic takes him 20 minutes. That what he was talking about. He said the Sundays take him longer, but the daily comics take him 20 minutes apiece. And so he'll get weeks ahead done and just take the time off. But then at the end, he stood up and just spoke gibberish, like at the crowd. It was like, and there was no laugh, there was no punchline. It just happened, and then he started signing autographs, and that was how he finished his talk. It was utterly surreal and strange. Wow. It was something that like I remembered happening. I think, Mike, I had to confirm it with you like 15 years later to like make sure that I hadn't like dreamed it. Like it was so bizarre. And I remember I didn't have a book, but I made him autograph my shoe, which he did. He was very nice about it.
And you
I
briefly
wonder
had
if he had like already stopped doing the comic at that point, and like his son hadn't told him, so he'd been like, "I got ideas for the rest of my life," but they weren't going anywhere.
And you had autographed shoes, like as
that was the thing I was doing at that point in my life. Was anytime I met a celebrity, I would make them autograph my shoe. I got John Flansburgh from the MP Giants. I got the guy from Mooka Ferguson, who was the opener for the MP Giants, and then also I got Ethan Cohen to sign my shoe as well.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty.
That's
cool.
right. We've met Ethan Cohen.
That's right.
I have a insurance card that's signed by Christian Hellion Glover.
Oh, that's quite good. That feels appropriate.
Yeah. Rachel, you want to give your quote?
Sure.
British accent down.
Oh, no.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, guys. I'll try and hit the meter, but I don't think I can do the accent. I mean, I'll try to try. This is Wesley and Giles in the library, and Wesley's talking about his credentials, and he says, I have, in fact, faced 2 vampires myself, under controlled circumstances, of course. And Giles says, no danger of finding those here. Vampires? Controlled circumstances.
Nice. Travis?
Buffy to Giles while looking at Wesley. Is he evil? The last one was evil, which is great. And then Buffy and Faith are fighting the vampires in the early part of the episode. And Buffy to Faith looking at the manhole. You're just going to go down there. That's your plan? Faith, who said I had a plan? Oh, that's Faith.
I have another from Balthazar.
Yeah.
The front. I'm gonna moisten the front.
Good Balthazar, Dennis.
I just thought he was super gross.
Well, I really love that he's not even saying my front or the front of me. Divorced from his own body.
That's a good point.
True. Yeah.
Beyond personal pronouns or whatever.
Same scene. Wesley and Giles have been captured, and Wesley, of course, who's never been near vampires or demons outside of controlled circumstances, is panicking. And he's muttering to himself, and he turns to Giles and he says, we must remain calm, Mr. Giles. And he's just sweating. And Giles turns to him dryly and says, thank God you're here. I was planning to panic.
They calls him Captain Courageous later.
Yes.
John, you want to?
He has another Balthazar line. He says, "A trade, intriguing. No, wait, boring. Pull off their kneecaps."
Nice, good one.
That's such a great flippant line. It totally works.
All right, let's move on to weird noticings and trivia. I have the first. I just say that I like the shot of Faith emerging from the poofed vampire dust. I like that whole opening sequence, but that shot I think is then mirrored later on when Faith gets saved by Buffy, and they make eye contact through the poof.
Oh, I guess the next one's me. It's funny how many episodes open with somebody in the middle of a sentence. It's a really great way to open episodes, and so they're just, I don't know. I couldn't remember how many others have opened like that, but I know a ton do because they open in a graveyard and they're always talking. I thought, hey, put this on the list.
How many open in a cemetery fighting something?
That's a whole separate list. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Many. It is a good way to it's a good way to start a story already in the middle of something.
Yeah, it's perfect because you start in a story. You don't start waiting for the story to happen. So I loved it.
John, you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask the cartoonists in the room, what did you think about the Sunday Comics opinions that were expressed? Because I know what I think as a reader, but you guys have the inside knowledge of newspaper comics.
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. One thing I think is kind of funny, when I first interviewed at my position at Peanuts, there's this very intimidating hallway that's got original art by Hal Foster and Will Kelly and all these greats, and it's the original art framed and everything, and then there was one Kathy comic that was just cut out of a newspaper and taped to the wall. And it was a comic about a thermometer, and I was like, why is this? And somebody was like, well, because the thermometer's right there. It was
so wait, I think I've always sort of felt that Marmaduke specifically and Family Circus specifically are really terrible. And it's one of those things, it's why is this still part of our lives? They should have been dumped years ago. But as comics artists, do you guys have a greater appreciation that I'm missing?
Not particularly, no.
Okay.
Well, I think that's part of what makes the joke so funny is all
right.
the strips mentioned are completely banal, but for some reason they're shitting on Kathy.
Yeah.
And what does that say about each of the characters that those are their choices?
Right.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. The mayor and Family Circus,
Well, right, and then same thing with the deputy mayor being into Kathy because he's very insecure, you know, so it makes perfect sense. And I think their choices were very good.
Well, yeah. So then, what's the comic strip that defines your personality? Your main character quirk.
Does it have to be a bad one?
Kathy's not bad.
No,
I agree. I think Kathy's not bad. I agree.
It was
with
the one that was good.
Yeah,
it's a good generic neurotic comic to choose.
Yeah,
I think Ziggy's underrated.
Who is it? There's somebody on Instagram right now who's drawing extra backgrounds to Ziggy comics. Do you know who that is? They're adding extra jokes. They're pretty funny. should look up who it was.
It's hard to beat Garfield without Garfield. That's pretty much in terms of meta strips.
Yep.
And Rachel's worked for Garfield. How is
That's true.
How is Garfield?
I enjoyed working on Garfield. They provided me with the script, and it's two of their in-house writers. And because it was just like a backup story, they let the backup artists draw in their own style, which was surprisingly challenging in a way because I still wanted to get those like really big Garfield eyes, and I draw dot eyes most of the time. So it was sort of this very weird amalgamation between how I normally draw and the Garfield style. But it did give me the opportunity for a very funny email where I had done my pencils for it and I'd sent it in, and it was a very cat-heavy strip because the series that I do, Frankie Comics, is all cat-centric. So they're like, oh, well, we'll give Rachel something that has Garfield and a bunch of neighborhood cats and just let her draw all the cats. And in one scene, Garfield is supposed to give somebody the paw, but instead of the hand. And because I draw the cats like more anatomically correct, I was like, oh, I'm not going to do that, but I'll have him just turn and show his butt. And I had drawn a little anus because that's how I draw my cats, is with little butts, the most important part of the cat. And the note that I got back after submitting my pencils, and it was from my editor, but from, the creator of Garfield had, it had gone up the chain to paws and then all the way back down to me. And he'd replied, can we remove the sphincter? The only note I got for this 10-page comic that I had drawn. So my pencils have that little butthole there, but the final art does not. So.
All right.
So canonically, Garfield has no anus, is what I.
Where's all the lasagna go?
It's smooth. It's just smoother than normal. So I have to ask, you must watch. You may watch Bob's Burgers. There's a whole episode about this, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you're like totally vindicated. You felt?
Oh,
or no?
It's classic. That's all of Linda's sister's artwork.
Yeah.
I would put all of that up in my house without the Titanic. Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. John, you got the next couple?
Oh, I mean, this is not hardly like headline news or anything, but Xander is back in full-on slut-shaming mode.
Very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, because the last episode I felt like focused on him, and I was really like bracing for him to be terrible, and he's mostly not terrible in the Zeppo. And then here he is, just in case you thought maybe he was done. He's back. He says that Cordelia is, going to be marketing her own successful line of hookerware. It's like, God damn it!
It's so frustrating, and I mean, I think as a teenager I didn't find it as frustrating. Now, like being an adult and being more woke or whatever, like everything that comes out of Xander's mouth I find really, really frustrating. But the other thing that I found really upsetting about that line is that what she's wearing isn't particularly like scandalous or showy, and it's not like Cordelia designs her own clothes. She's buying like high-end, like brand name clothes by fashion designers. It's not like she put the outfit together. I don't know.
I do like in that scene, Xander's like, she zings him and walks away, and his bit about like, oh, I'm not going to waste the perfect insult on you, but its time will come. Oh, yes, it will come. And then like switches right back to normal talk.
Yeah.
I thought that was a fun scene, a fun moment. All right. Want to talk some about the new Watcher, Wesley Wyndham-Pryce?
Yeah, just for a minute. I mean, John, got it in the introduction. Rachel got it, in the lines, like just his character is kind of simple and easy to follow. But like, it was just incredible how out of touch the new Watcher is. And it feels like the Watcher Council is clearly a cult of readers or library folk that have no experience with the real world. And their disdain, their intellectual ivory tower disdain for everyone else is absurd. And it was just funny to meet. This is the first Watcher character, I guess, that we've met that's a real Watcher. And it's like the first rep of the Watcher Council that I guess is like the last time it was the weird test when Buffy turned 18, which was like just a horrific, scary Watcher character who just wanted to kill Buffy. And this guy is like just weird, out of touch, aloof. Just such a strange dude. What does everybody think of him? I guess I have what does everybody think of the new Watcher?
Here's something that really bothers me. It bothers me every time I rewatch. Giles works in the library, and that's why their setup is in the library.
Oh yeah.
Wesley doesn't have another job. He has no reason to be at that school. He should have set up a separate location. Somebody should fucking arrest this grown ass man for hanging around the school for 8 hours a day.
Yes, this bothered me as well.
Yeah, so that's the Watcher's office is the library, but he doesn't work there. Yeah, that's insane. It makes no sense. He needs a regular office. The mayor has an office.
Yeah. But I always enjoyed the Giles Jr.-ness of it, mirroring poses and stuff.
Yeah.
I love Wesley Wyndham-Pryce. He's amazing.
Wow. All right, well, I'm excited to see how this character develops.
I had a weird continuity complaint that when Buffy describes last night's vamp staking, she's like, the third vampire, it didn't seem like she was they were with the other two because he had swords, which totally ignores that they're all wearing the same Ren Fair outfit.
The exact same outfit.
Buffy used to have the super ability of noticing clothes. That used to be skill sets, and she totally misses this giant thing.
Maybe it's like the tides. It comes in and out, her ability to recognize clothing.
I mean, I think it's just, the script was written one way, and then the costumers were put them all in the same costume, right?
The script was probably written, and then they were just written with swords, and then when it came down to make it, they're like, no, these guys need a costume.
They have a fun, stupid backstory. I mean, I'll ask about it later, but yeah.
Rachel, you want to go next?
Oh yeah, no, I just speaking to mirroring and Wesley being mini Giles. There was a scene in his introduction that after they talked to Buffy and Faith and they departed, both Wesley and Giles remove and clean their glasses out of frustration at the exact same time, and I thought that was very funny. It was very cute.
Yeah. And they don't seem to notice.
And neither of them notices. They're looking away from each other, and they both have that exact same action.
Yeah. Xander, I already talked about that. I also he also has some good acting in the scene where at the chemistry test, the twitching he does is good, and the line delivery where he's holding his eye and he's like, some of us just really care about our education, okay? We don't often give Nick Brendan any praise, but solid acting this episode.
Yeah.
The sound effect too of him smacking his face
yeah.
to cover his twitching eye. And I loved the in the earlier sequence when they were talking about the college admissions and the chemistry test, Xander was like, oh, I don't care about school or my future or whatever. It doesn't matter. And Buffy was like, this test is really important. I really need to pass this test. And then by the time we get to that scene, Xander's like, oh no, this test is really important. Stop distracting me. And Buffy's like, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, she got drowned and that changes her personality.
That school scene is so weird because where is Faith looks like she's on another planet when she's opening the window, hey, get out of there. It's like a dream almost.
Yeah,
it's a dream.
Reminds me of did you guys see Rumblefish? Do you know that movie? It's
not in a long time. It's a good movie though.
Yeah, it's Coppola, and there's a scene where what's his name? The main character is in auto shop or something and totally bored, and he fantasizes Diane Lane just sitting up on top of the classroom in lingerie, and it's this
laundry?
fantasy laundry in dirty laundry. But it's this total fantasy sequence. That's what this reminds me of, but it really happened.
Did you say dirty laundry with an accent? I got to listen to this podcast later.
I meant to say lingerie, but I fucked up and said laundry. And then
I love it. Yeah, when my wife wears laundry.
You know what? Fuck you guys. That's just. What do you say about it, John?
Just the same thing. Just that it feels like this is happening in Buffy's imagination. It feels like Faith is her imaginary friend because she's talking about how being a Slayer is this other experience that no one can understand. And then as she's talking about it, Faith comes and interrupts the test, and no one reacts to Faith except for Buffy.
Yeah.
And so it really feels like it's happening inside Buffy's imagination, but it isn't. It feels like that, like Faith is her Tyler Durden or her Drop Dead Fred, like her imaginary friend.
And she
who
totally
is-
does the heart on the
the heart
mirror.
on the glass is like, it just feels like it's happening inside her imagination.
Great 90s cuts too on like the what it's like. It's like Tyler Durden.
And did anyone else in high school like want to jump out a window, or not necessarily like a window that's up, but like just use that to get out of a place?
Oh, my sister did that. She escaped Saturday detention that exact way.
Like ground level windows are begging to be jumped out of. Like
I also like, in order for this to happen, the teacher just for some reason leaves. She's like, this test is on an honor system.
Yeah.
Well, they probably have like 20 vacancies. They probably have all these vacancies at Sunnydale. She's probably teaching 10 different classes.
She's got to go sub in the computer science class.
They still haven't found a computer science teacher.
She actually has a name, I think. No. Yeah, she actually gets a name. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, she was named in the earlier scene.
Yep.
But like Buffy is straight up turned around facing everybody behind her during this test, and nobody says anything. And she just gets up and walks out a window. Like, oh.
Remember back in like the first episode when she skipped a class and like got caught and like got lectured to?
Yeah.
That just hasn't happened in a while.
Well,
Yeah, for being such a strict principal, Snyder's really letting things go.
Yeah.
Doug Flutie was
Yeah, Flutie was probably
Flutie-
he ran a tighter ship.
Flutie cared about the kids. Snyder's
He
got
did.
his own situation.
Yeah.
Flutie. Mike, you got the next comment?
Oh gosh, there's just an amazing transition from Buffy and Faith fighting to then being like dance partners at the Bronze, and like it was awesome to see the EDM night or goth night, whatever this party.
It's definitely not Goth Night.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch the cartoon Batman Beyond?
No.
They have a like EDM opening sequence that was directed by Darwin Cook, but I really think that there's some frames from that are like live traced over this scene.
Oh.
I could see that.
A real similarity going on. And
It's a really fun cut, really fun transition, and it just like sets up that Buffy and Faith are on the same page so well. So
yeah,
it's like really good story, like TV film storytelling. I was really impressed.
it is. And it's also like by the time they're playing that music at the Bronze, it must be hours later. They've been like slaying and dancing all night.
Yeah, totally.
Let's see. You got the next comment, Rachel?
Oh yeah. So when they're at the Bronze and dancing, Wesley shows up to talk to Buffy about slaying stuff, and while they're discussing it, he insists that Buffy give him a phone number where he can reach her while she's gone and out slaying. And I think that was very funny because cell phones aren't really a thing in the Buffyverse. And because it couldn't be like a landline. He couldn't be like, give me your home number when you're out slaying and killing things. So presumably he means a cell phone number, but no one has cell phones in Sunnydale.
Yeah, she used to have a beeper, but we haven't even seen that in like
That's
forever.
true.
If the apocalypse comes, beat me. I say then we meet Balthazar for the first time, who I think is hilarious. I mean, I just really see, like, when I see something like this, I see both, like, the performer and the effects people just, like, having a really fun time. And they built, like, the grossest looking dude they could, and it's, like, really weird looking guy with a lot of layers.
It looks like they started with the master style, like forehead and like face makeup, and then obviously built out the jacuzzi man. Like,
and like it starts as the zoom in on his face, and you don't know how fat he is, and it just keeps like getting wider and wider.
He's kind of got like a Darth Vader looking face. Like he's got that paleness.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised it's not the same actor who played the master. They're so similar.
Why can't it be that one guy who's been in the show 10 times already?
Do you mean Luke?
Luke. Yeah, the guy's had 5 different roles.
Why would you hire Luke? The whole point of that guy is that he's like big and muscly.
Well, I mean, you just stuff Luke inside something else. You double the
Right.
mass.
That seems like
Luke's already got the mass. You just double it.
okay.
unfortunately, Hulu really ruins the reveal of this monster for me because the screenshot, like the thumbnail of this episode, is the monster, is the Balthazar monster, which is a bummer, but still pretty awesome monster.
And
Do you
just
guys
love it
remember-
being, like, ladled the whole time.
Yeah, the ladling thing is weird.
And when the actor starts flapping his arms around and is like, like.
That's my favorite because the guy in the suit, he's got to have his arms like down here, and he can really kind of only like flipper the bottom half of his arm.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is so great about the design of that character is most Buffy villains, especially just like Monster of the Week dads, like they're all humanoid, and it's just like, oh, that's a guy in a suit. But the way that Balthazar has been sort of melted into this jacuzzi pit, it really makes me wonder about the backstory of his character, which we will never learn. And I'm like, what was that battle like? Who was this guy? Who was he before this happened?
I want to know all the details about, like, has he been in Sunnydale this whole time, or does the cult, like...
Did they pick him up and move him in that jacuzzi?
Yes.
Like...
Yeah, so the new watcher said he hasn't been, right? It's like it's like 100 years or something like that.
They're assuming that he's been dead this whole time, but that doesn't mean that he originated in Sunnydale.
Also, do we know what the amulet does to Balthazar?
Grants power.
Yeah.
He probably gets to walk again.
Yeah, presumably it would heal him.
But he can do that thing where he grabs Angel without the amulet, right? Or does he have the amulet briefly?
No.
He did earlier without it.
He does it by himself, yeah.
Maybe it increases his range, so people don't have to be in his direct, like, stay 10 feet in front of me at all times.
Do you remember the similar monster from Blade?
Yeah.
Blade totally ripped off this monster.
I think Blade might have come out first.
No, I think this came out first.
I don't know.
Oh, no, I have to look it up.
This would be year 2000. No, this is year 1999. Yeah, it's year 1999.
Which?
All right, fine. Blade came out in 98. I thought this was first.
I didn't listen to it for this recording, but I've listened to the commentary for this episode before, and the director claims he never watched Blade. And he says he stole the idea from a Daredevil comic where Kingpin is in the sewer. But I just think the similarities are way too similar, and the fact that he like dies similarly, like all burnt up and stuff. I think he's ripping off Blade.
I mean, a lot of vampires in this show die that way, though. I mean,
that's true.
It's just such a fun visual to gravitate a cult around. It feels like something Hodorowski would do. It's great.
Yeah, totally. I love the idea that these are like a noble cult that's into like fighting and stuff, and then their like leader is a dude who can't even move, and it's like, just cheat. Why don't you cheat? Like,
yeah, and they're strangely a cult of duelists that like always fight to the death with swords. I mean, it's just there's so many weird, rad details.
How do vampires kill each other with swords? Do they cut each other's heads off? Because that would.
That's the only way.
Seems like they're not particularly equipped for that.
Don't they kill a vampire with a beheading in this scene? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
he sort of crushes his head, breaks his neck, and this is a problem that I have because it doesn't seem like a vampire death at all.
And in fact, we don't even see him poof.
Yeah,
it could be like he cripples him for life.
It still hurts.
Just like.
I guess if he's the paraplegic vampire forever, is that what happens? That's kind of worse. Gosh,
rough, man. Don't cross Balthazar.
John, you got the next one.
I love that the like drop that maybe Sunnydale has a girl gang problem because the cops are immediately like, "What are you guys in that girl gang? One of those girl gangs that always stealing nunchucks?" Like, I really like the idea that there's a Sunnydale like set of girl gangs because I think that would make a great spin-off or fan fiction project about that would be really fun. And then like I also want that to include the Boy Scout troop from Sunnydale, Troop 75 apparently, that goes for the photo op at the mayor's office. I would really like to read a story about like a Boy Scout troop trying to go camping in Sunnydale. It just doesn't seem like a good idea.
That's true.
Maybe that girl gang is the one who shot up the guys from the Zeppo and stuff.
Can vampires enter your tent? Does that count as a home?
No, it's not a home.
How long do you have to stay in a tent before it's your home?
Yeah, how big does the tent have to be? I mean, obviously, the vampires have to get invitations to the circus.
A homeless person can live in, then it's not a home, because that wouldn't be their name.
If it's a yurt,
that was stupid of me.
Maybe a yurt.
Sounds like a great Twitter poll. Can vampires enter tents?
Well, could they enter an RV? I think the answer to that would be yes.
I also in that scene, I just want to say,
Mobile home.
what kind of like hardware store or whatever or camping supply store is this that has like nunchucks?
Yeah, there's shurikens, there's nunchucks. Also,
Like-
did anybody notice the bow that Faith steals is not the bow she has later?
Well, she steals. She goes back.
Oh, does she go
She
back?
goes
Okay,
back,
all right.
yeah. But she first stole a crossbow with like a air canister.
Yeah, it's
Which
like a pneumatic crossbow. It's
I want to know
terrifying.
about that. That
Yeah,
sounds
me too.
But then she steals like a regular like hunting composite bow or something. So I said last episode was Xander's time to feel left out of the group, and this episode it's Willow's time. Poor Willow.
This is one of the better parts of the episode, I think, and it's not a big part of the episode, but Willow's like subtle sort of like, oh, I'm not your number one friend anymore kind of plot that she has with the protection spell is one of the like subtler, better things that happens in this episode. I really like that.
And like it's one of those things where for me, I'm like on one hand, I think Willow should feel like it's okay for Buffy to have multiple friends, right? But I also feel a lot when she's like looking at her protection bag that she left and it's like stupid. Like I feel that.
Well, and I don't know if this is obvious because I didn't actually watch the episode Gingerbread leading up to this, but she's been working on that spell, that protection spell, since Gingerbread. So however much time has passed, she's been putting in the hours to make that for Buffy. And so for it to finally be completed and she's really proud of it and wants to like be with a friend and go on the hunt. And then she's just like, nope, sorry. You know, that's heartbreaking.
Does this mean that she's mastered the 4 elements? Did you already give Mike that prediction?
We didn't give that to him. I'm not planning on giving it to him. We can talk about that later.
Probably because we didn't see the spell demonstrated, even though it's clear she's achieving a high level of mastery.
Yeah, but we'll get to that. We can talk about the 4 elements later. I didn't even think it was worth talking about, but we can talk about it later.
Cool.
John, you got the next question.
Oh yeah, I'm curious, and this is I know I keep harping on this forever, but like this whole scene where the whole point of it is that Giles has more experience than Wesley, and like Wesley doesn't really know what he's doing, and then Giles is like, oh yes, well, if you really want to be a watcher, now's your chance because we're being attacked by vampires, and like the whole point of this scene is that Giles knows what he's doing, but if he knows what he's doing, why didn't they go home before dusk? I'm so sick of them getting ambushed at the library. Because it keeps happening, and they know better. They should just go home where there's a magical fortress.
John, they're not going to live their lives in fear. They're going to be in that library, or the vampires win.
They should be afraid.
They should build a house inside of the library. Not a cage, but a house that's technically a house the vampires can't go in.
Where does Wesley live? Maybe they're setting him up
maybe Wesley, but then they wouldn't get kidnapped if Wesley was living there.
No. Let me do this as a dark read, John. What if Giles knew that, but was hoping that Wesley would die when the vampires came?
Oh, Jesus.
That's a dark read. That's a dark read for you.
Oh, Ripper.
I will buy that.
Man, that's good. So then they get kidnapped and everything. And I just want to say when like Balthazar is like, what is the name of the man who has my amulet? Like I was like, Angel announces himself into the battle. Like he's a man who knows he's about to be the star of his own show. Like he's legitimately never earned that at all. Like in a fight, like we've never really seen him be a big fighter except when he's evil. But he's just like, I'm gonna announce my presence. Like,
'tis I, Angel.
I thought it was rad. It made me happy when I saw that. I was like kind of happy to see Angel enter. He's like a lot more fun this episode.
Well, because how often does Angel not do this? How often is somebody in horrible peril and Angel just doesn't show up? That seems like that happens most of the time. Yeah.
There's so many episodes where I wish he would have showed up to help Buffy. Yeah.
I also wonder if he was, waiting around for a while. Like maybe there'll be a good introduction for me.
Just off screen.
Oh, that's why he's always been just in the wings when everyone needed him, but never came in because no one gave him the right opportunity.
My name.
Man, I wish someone strong could come and help. Oh yeah, no, you got to ask who is this person more than anyone right now. Like kind of like a Superman thing, like who is the man that's faster than a train? Whatever it is.
Let's not bring up Superman again. Travis, you got the next one?
Giles headbutts a vampire. That's trouble. He's using his noggin against himself.
That's true. He's only got a limited amount of knockouts left in his.
Yeah. Yeah.
It also seems like, vampires have that extra cushioning.
Yeah, they have the messed up forehead.
Yeah.
Angry forehead.
But it is good to see Giles, now that Wesley's here, Giles can be more of a badass and actually participate in fights and stuff. It's good to see.
Hey, so there's this scene where the mayor imprisons a guy that tries to kill him, and then they cast a spell or something, and then they release him, and then he cuts the mayor's head in two, and then the mayor's okay again because the mayor is invincible, I guess.
Like T2000.
Anyway, first time through the show, what the fuck is going on? That's a crazy scene.
That special effect isn't horrible either. I was watching it, and I was like, you know what? Compared to other special effects, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah, and it's an interesting choice because they could have just gone with I'm invulnerable, as in like the blade bounces off my skin, right? Yeah. But instead they went for this like big effects shot. I like when it's split. The interior isn't like brain matter or anything. It's like
gray goo.
Gray goo.
It's like magic stuff.
I mean, the mayor is talking about ascending, and I assumed it was like, he's getting called to demon heaven or something. But ascending for him, it seems to mean becoming literally invincible, which is insane.
I agree with Travis, by the way, that demon heaven already has a name, and it's hell.
Although it'd be great if there was a separate demon like heaven, and we just that the demon hell's the bad place for the bad demons. But if you're like,
we've seen demon hell. It's all business. It's all like trying to manufacture some unknown commodity.
It's all maturing cheap.
That's a different place.
Poly malt Scotch into 500-year-old Scotch.
No, demon heaven. Like clearly, he's ascending to the demon version. Humans, mortal people are like, that's hell. And we point down, but demons are probably pointing up. Anyway, it's so crazy. I know this is going to be the season 3 bad guy now, based on this, because this is too big a monster to deal with in a single episode. And they don't even. The mayor is like clear in the wings the whole time, just plotting and hoping that Buffy gets killed. But they cut to this crazy side story. Anyway, it's a fun, weird B story.
Yeah, and Alan was apparently probably going to be telling the Slayers about it. Too bad for Alan.
Yep.
All right. Rachel, you got some trivia at the end.
Yeah. I wasn't sure how much you guys wanted to go into trivia, but the original ending for this episode was completely different. And I don't know if you guys had read about this.
No, I don't know.
Do tell.
Tell us how.
The original ending for this episode, according to the Buffy wiki, is that Buffy was going over to Faith's house to talk to her about the death of Alan. And she was to find Faith having hung herself in remorse. And at some point in the production of this season, they decided to keep Faith on, so they changed it.
Wow.
That's much heavier.
Hella bleak.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm really glad they didn't do that. I would not have wanted to see that scene, honestly.
Yeah, same.
Whoa.
Well, I've seen Faith comics on store shelves, so I know that doesn't, it's not happening. That is dark.
They're all prequels, Mike.
And then the other thing that I guess is notable with regard to this episode is Allison Hannigan, Willow, first met her future husband, Alexis Denisoff, Wesley, on the set of this episode. So that's...
Woo! Oh, how sweet. That's cute.
Sparks were flying. I don't think they even share a scene in this episode.
I don't think so.
No.
Not to the next episode.
Yeah, not to the next.
All right. That was Weird Noticings and Trivia. And we are going to move on to questions for the group. All right. The first question comes from Mike.
Yeah, so this is for Teach.
Oh.
Hey, if you don't have a family and you skip school or don't value school in general, what happens?
That's an upsetting question, Mike. I don't know.
Rachel knows.
I've certainly...
Go ahead and finish your thought, but I have a personal anecdote.
Oh.
Please save me from this. Give me your personal anecdote. I don't know if I want to answer this question.
Nothing happens.
Yeah.
If your family isn't... if your family doesn't care, nothing happens because the school can't keep you there. and there's nobody looking out for you, if the school can report you for not going, and nowadays somebody could call child services and be like, oh, hey, this kid's not coming to school, you should do a wellness check. But if the home is clean, like, there's nothing you can do just being truant. No one will do anything.
There's some moves to punish. There's some moves to punish parents for truancy. That's starting to become more of a thing. But you're right. I think in general, they can hassle you. There's a lot of hassling that happens.
Yeah, I know. At least in the 80s, there was nothing anybody would do.
Yeah.
But mid 90s, late 90s, I'm sure there was stuff in effect. But
you can definitely crack down on parents for truancy now. There's definitely things that they do. I don't know exactly how it works. Child service is a big part of the things that you hold over a parent's head. But yeah, if they do a site visit and there's no problems, I don't know what happens then. That's a good question.
Well,
I thought your question was more broad, like what happens to a person who is not engaged with either a family or a school community.
They become the slayer.
Yeah, and I'm like, that makes kind of makes me sad. I hope that people like that turn out well. I don't know.
I just meant in regards to Faith, really, because I didn't even think of her as a fellow student until she shows up to say, like, Buffy, skip school, like, get out of here. I'm like, is Faith even in school? I guess she's kind of been in the hallway a little bit randomly. Like, I have no sense of her attending classes. But she has a family.
In the first episode, she says, like, oh, if I had friends like you guys, I probably still would have dropped out, but I would have felt bad about it.
Right.
So she hasn't even enrolled at Sunnydale. She's basically off the books.
Yeah.
She's off the radar. She's off the books and she's off the radar.
And Giles and Wesley are not doing anything to try to get her.
Yeah, not interested in like making sure she's got a decent place to live or food, or really interested in Faith at all, which is odd because I think she's more the official Slayer than Buffy is, because when Buffy died, she kind of passed the crown on. So I really feel like they should be more focused on Faith, if anything.
Yeah,
but I guess I don't know. The Watcher thing seems to be more about wielding power than about really getting anything done. That's what I'm learning from this season. So Buffy's better for that. I guess she's more compliant.
Yeah, this episode is a lot about rule breaking, and going to school or not is one of the early rules that gets broken. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, in the themes, because it's a big subject. The next kind of question here. Oh, the Eliminati. What does everybody think the deal is with the Eliminati?
I think we've officially put as much thought into the Eliminati, like right now, as the writers did.
Yeah. They all wear Ren Fair costumes, and they all have two swords, a big one and a small one.
Like there's the Eliminati, there's the
three,
the three, and there's the Order of something. Yeah, and they just all seem like there's these like totally interchangeable medieval-esque vampire cults that just don't matter.
The Order of Taraka aren't vampires.
Okay.
They're still like an assassin.
They're like but they're more. I think of the Order of Taraka more like just the union you join if you're a mystic bounty hunter.
Okay, right. Oh, that's the maggot guy and stuff.
And then there were the Germans, right? And then there was like Slayer Fest. Or no, was that Slayer Fest?
Slayer Fest 98.
Yeah, then there's the whole Slayer Fest. All right, am I the only one who regrets never having hidden in a coffin or sarcophagus? I'll get my turn eventually, but have you guys ever been like, man, I want to jump inside a coffin and shut the... I feel like I have to.
Interned.
I feel like
we're all shaking our heads. Sorry for the podcast audience. Everybody's shaking their heads.
I kind of agree. When I look back at it, I'm like, I haven't done that. That's weird.
There's limited opportunities in life.
Yeah,
there are 2 opportunities I've seen in the past year to inside the sarcophaguses.
Yeah, you take them. Did you take them?
No, I took neither. At the Lovecraft Bar, which is a goth bar in Portland, you can sarcophagus.
You can climb in there.
EDM.
Oh. Yeah, I got a story. A pseudo sarcophagus.
Okay. Oh, the other one. So the film festival in town last year that a friend of ours ran the social media campaign for. anyway, we always say his name, but I'm not going to this time. But there was a film festival at the Overlook Hotel. So like on Mount Hood, there's a hotel that was used as the background shot for The Shining. It's on Mount Hood of the Overlook, not the interiors, but the exteriors, and they used it. It's the Stanley Hotel that they use, and they had a VR experience where you could get inside of a coffin and experience being dead, and and like people crying and like coming over to the coffin and being depressed and sad about it.
God.
But it started with you dying. It started with you dying in an ambulance. Like you're in the stretcher being taken to the hospital, whatever, and then you're in a coffin and people are sad, and that was the story.
Jesus H. Christ.
You can simulate this experience a little bit, more pleasing in a tanning bed. Although I don't recommend you go to it. I don't recommend tanning beds. But
as a doctor, Travis does not recommend tanning beds.
No.
Or a float tank. I did a float tank a couple times this year. It's so nice.
Really?
The tanning bed you can pull really close to your face.
I'd like to do a float tank. I haven't done that.
Yeah, I want to do that terribly.
Or a sleeping bag.
You ever see the movie The Mindbenders? That's good.
I don't know Mindbender. I know Altered States.
Altered States!
Altered States is such a mess.
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
Crazy.
Sorry, recommendations are later.
All right, let's move on.
All right. I have a couple questions. Are Buffy and Angel officially back together? They look very coupley.
I had the same question.
They kissed. They're very kissy. Oh,
but they're not just kissy in like their usual like passionate way. They're like kissy in a like we're in an established relationship.
We're doing this a lot more than to see on screen kissy. Yeah.
I don't think they're officially back together, but I think that they are all but officially.
They're definitely back together.
I think if you asked Buffy, she'd say no, and if you asked Angel, he would say no.
No, that's a lie about the relationship.
I think to like Wes or something, Wesley, he'd be like, "So this is Buffy's boyfriend. I just met him."
Yeah.
And then Angel would look on camera. He would look at somebody like, yeah, I mean, not really. Okay.
I'm just saying for a prediction, I think it's time we finally called it.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
All right.
I do have that one set to talk about today. Yeah.
Does drowning count as another Buffy death? I ask.
I don't think so because she didn't require CPR, so she wasn't really drowned.
But she like has that whole twitch and everything, and then
no, it's a fake out. It's a fake. It's acting. It's acting. Yeah.
But she got see. Here's one of my theories is that whenever Buffy drowns, she gets a level up, and she got that level up. She's suddenly able to like easily defeat these vampires. So she got the normal experience points she gets from a drowning.
Oh, so question. In the Buffy Vampire Slayer video game, do you level up by drowning the character? Is that how that works?
I have never played the Buffy video game, but I assume so.
There's a handful of Buffy video games, right? There's more than one.
For the Game Boy, too. So, like, I don't know if I play these. Yeah.
That was another Twitter thing from a couple weeks ago, so I didn't put it in. But Dingo Action commented because John was like, why don't they use super soakers filled with holy water? And apparently in the first Buffy video game, that's one of the weapons she can use.
Oh, really?
So
interesting. Thank you, Dingo Action. I may go play that game.
Rachel, you got the last question?
Yeah, I was just curious if anyone else loved Buffy's make under in the sequence where she and Faith steal stuff from the sports store. Like the costuming and the makeup in that show, they make such a huge effort to make her look really girly and femme and pastels and flowers in her hair, and like it's a huge part of her visual aesthetic as a character. And you know, mind you, I'm jumping in the middle of season 3. I haven't watched the first 2 seasons recently, but in the recent episodes that I just watched, this was the first time we saw her with like neutral makeup, like no colored lipstick. She was wearing a very simple sort of Faith, like tough outfit. And I just thought she looked amazing, like way better than the 90s, like Femme Delia's catalog look. And I thought it was really nice.
Yeah, I love everything about that scene. So yes, I like that make under also. Yeah, I mean, and it makes like, you know, she was dressed up for fighting, right? It makes more sense for her to like not be wearing a dress.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah. It's more function than form.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was really appropriate, and it echoes back to the whole thematic mirroring thing, where she's like, "Oh, well, I'm trying out how Faith is a Slayer. I'm going to dress a little bit more like that,"
Yeah.
whether it was a conscious decision or not.
Want, take, have. All right, guys, we ready to move on to the deep stuff?
I think there's 2 more things in this doc.
Oh, sorry.
I think they're
Including
covered under deep. Well, one of them's covered.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I asked the important question: who turns down homemade waffles?
I would.
I would never in my life turn down homemade waffles.
I don't love waffles.
But they're just pancakes in different form.
I don't love pancakes.
I have no love of pancakes. I only love waffles.
I'd prefer a waffle to a pancake. I don't care for either.
My wife and I love waffles. We literally overdrafted our Chase account buying a double waffle maker last year. So
That's
totally
nice.
worth it.
Yeah.
On sale.
Priorities. We just bought a house. We've got to be frugal, except for this waffle maker.
I know. We just stopped. We weren't thinking. Okay, can we talk about this? Just it could go in deep thoughts or whatever. But Faith kills a human.
That's the theme's deep stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're in themes and deep stuff now.
Yeah.
All right,
There.
great. Faith
The music
kills a
is played.
human. What do people think about that? So Rachel just mentioned, I guess, this alternate ending where Faith kills herself as a consequence because she's so broken about it. That is an incredibly dark move for the show.
Yeah, just like Judas.
But yeah, what do people think about that scene? I mean, I know how I think about it.
You got to
but-
unpack it. You can interpret it just by itself of her killing a human, but then you also have to think Alan was working for the bad guys, right?
Right.
I mean, we don't know for sure that he was going to go tip off Buffy and Faith. I thought he was like out going to do some like mischief. Actually, I thought he was going to be out putting the hit out or trying to get. Yeah. So I guess
I always interpret it as he's going to inform the Slayer about the mayor. But it is interesting that the show's vague about it.
It is vague, yeah.
it's vague.
surprised how vague they are.
Well, Mike, you're the virgin. How do you feel? Oh yeah, Rachel. You say.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, do they know at that point that Alan is the deputy mayor and associated with the mayor? Like they don't.
I don't
find
think
that
so.
out later,
No.
right?
That comes out. I think must come out in the newspaper later.
Yeah.
Well, I know the next episode is called Consequences, and I assume that there will be consequences for the murder of a human.
You
Vampires, no
assumed
one cares
that
about.
Revelations would have revelations in it.
Yeah, well, Yoder was like, so I assume that
Yes.
on the right direction for this one. I assume there will be consequences for Faith killing a human. I mean, that's literally a prediction, but like that's like the first really deliberate. I think we've killed monsters that look more humanoid and didn't dust, like they didn't just vaporize or whatever. That's kind of been happening more frequently in season 3 versus previous seasons, and so I think the show does want it to be a serious thing to kill a human because they keep it as serious, but it is
Although
kind of
Buffy
accidentally
let the Germans kill each other.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
He kind of kills those two guys.
And
But we
Buffy-
don't count that for some reason.
And then Buffy
I mean, that's
pushed
self-defense-ish.
the high school coach. Remember, Buffy pushed the swim coach.
Swim coach, yeah.
Swim coaches.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Those boys really love their coach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
and the show wants like evil and good to be really distinct sometimes, and then other times it wants to blur that line, and it seems to be very choosy. And the way that the visual language of the show like screeches to a halt when they kill this guy, to me, like if I think it's good that they're doing that, but I also think it's like, oh well, I guess you're just changing the rules.
Yeah.
Or they don't have a hard rule about.
battles. You know, like when you're a parent and you can't like enforce every little infraction. They're kind of. It feels like the writers are picking their battles when it literally when it comes to like morality. But, yeah, Mike.
The show treats it as a big deal. It's a big deal to kill a human. And you're right that it's like there's not a no killing human rule. Like humans have been killed if they're bad. But the deputy mayor is kind of like the worst thing he did is like Kathy, and he also didn't warn the mayor that someone he had no idea that someone was about to kill him. Maybe.
Yeah, that was a little weird. Like that sequence is weird. That like Trick is hiding in one room and then the cabinet also has another vampire in it.
I think that probably attaches to that assumption that we're making that he was going to warn Buffy and Faith about what the mayor was doing. What if he just let that guy in and put him in the cabinet?
Yeah.
We'll never find out. We don't know, but that would explain that anomaly.
Yeah, how in broad daylight this dueling vampire Vincent got into.
So there's a missing parallel story here where Alan realizes that his boss is evil, doesn't really know what to do about it, panics about it, tries to solve it by hiding a vampire in his closet. That doesn't work. And so then he tries to go tell the Slayers about it, but they stab him to death.
Yeah.
That's basically how this goes.
Yeah, it's a rough week for Alan.
Yeah.
Since last week.
I think the big problem with this is that Faith, like, it's kind of weird that Faith has zero conscious after this. Like, that's the weird part. Like,
Yeah.
she has zero remorse now, right? That's how they present it, at least. I think.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, is it could just be a front. I mean, having been a teenage girl, sometimes you do fucked up shit by accident, and you're like, no, it's fine, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal, you know.
I think that's what she's doing.
She's totally Lady Macbething.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't Lady Macbeth if you actually have, like, no remorse.
Right.
No, I think it's clear from her performance in the first scene where she first kills him that she's as freaked out as anybody. If you watch her, she's just as freaked out as anybody, and it's retroactively that she doesn't care about it. That's how she covers it over. So I guess that's just. I guess I'm a murderer now, and that's
surprising.
fine.
Yeah.
Also, she's for some reason drying her clothes inside a drawer. That's just a fucking mess, man.
I didn't notice that at
I
all.
didn't either. What?
Well, she's hanging it. No, she's hanging it.
I did notice she has a bunch of pillows taped around a pipe. Is that explained?
I think that's just her like punching pipe.
Oh, it's for punching.
Okay, that makes sense.
I interpret it as like it's her punching bag or whatever.
Because she drew a little dead face on it. So it's her thing that she beats up. It's her
very
bag.
Spartan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with the Faith's lack of remorse is the big problem, right? She doesn't care that she's
I
done
think
it.
it's unrealistic.
She has initial remorse
Right.
visually, but then is very standoffish to Buffy. Like, she's very defensive when Buffy's like, hey, we can talk about it, we can work through it or whatever. They're going to figure it out.
It's too
Faith's
simple.
like, there's nothing to figure
Just
out.
when
It's
they
too
were
simple,
starting to be so
answer.
close.
I mean, Faith doesn't have a history of like talking about feels, either.
Right.
So it makes sense that something so big and hideous like this, she'd just be like, no, we're not going to talk about it. There's nothing to talk about. It's fine. And she's kind of doubling down on that bad girl persona, that she's like, no, I am tough. Look how ruthless I am,
So is that kind of the story of the episode then? Like, because it's bad girls, so like she becomes she's the baddest girl, and then she, like, Buffy kind of like goes through a bad girl phase and then kind of leaves. She's like makes moral decisions and decides against it. But Faith is like, no, I'm a bad girl, and she then she does something really bad, which is not only does she kill someone, but she decides to have no remorse, even though we think she has remorse. She's a real bad girl.
Yeah.
So that's my next question is like, what does it mean to be a bad girl? Well, it means to kill and have no remorse. That's what bad girls do.
Rachel, you had a quote that you erased, but I liked it.
Deleted it. After I wrote it, I wasn't sure that it was really applicable. But there's a Mae West quote, which was originally the title of a song that's it's good girls go to heaven, bad girls go everywhere else. And I thought it was kind of interesting that I'd come across that quote around the same time we were rewatching this episode, and I wonder if that sentiment is maybe something that Faith would subscribe to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it definitely works with if Buffy's a good girl and how limited her
lifestyle and experiences.
Yeah.
Well, and
she's ruled by these men in her life. I mean, they don't have any of that.
It's worth pointing out that these two people are like actually literally subject to a patriarchal society that doesn't have their best interest at heart. Like that's literally true in a very tangible way. So Faith's reaction makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, but I guess that we're supposed to read the character as like she goes too far and actually rejects all morality and decency along with everything else.
But it's so interesting because it's like there's two different worlds that the show can present, and it makes us want to side with Buffy, and like we assume her worldview is correct, where like
Right.
she thinks she might go to college, and like that school is still valuable and you should go. But obviously, like in a world plagued by vampires, you shouldn't give a shit about school. You should be 100% focused on weapons and survival and the next when you can, and whatever kind of pleasures for now, and like fighting, and I want to have sex after I fight or eat a bunch of ribs. Like that sounds great. Like Faith's worldview, which is completely accurate, versus Buffy still trying to keep the structure of school together, and like it's insane.
That's a good point. Faith is kind of the sane one.
Yeah, but Buffy's like futures
world.
the fantasy. Like that's the fantasy is what Buffy's saying.
And I actually feel like it's weird when earlier in the episode, when we first meet Wesley and Faith is like, "You're actually going to listen to this guy?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's kind of the job." Like that, like Buffy being the one who wants to follow what the Watcher says, doesn't feel a lot like the Buffy we first met in season 1. Like Buffy is inherently like rebellious towards the Watchers, but like I say this in a later thing, but like because Faith is so anti-authoritarian, like it at first pushes Buffy more to the other extreme of being like pro the Watchers' authority, which it doesn't feel like what Buffy really is about, right? But she's also not totally about this. Like,
well, that's really interesting because that also paints Giles in a really kind of creepy light, where that kind of makes Giles the this negotiator between like the authority and Buffy, where like he's putting a kind, loving face on authority and control that persuades Buffy that that's the right thing to do.
All those crystals and that injecting of that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a kind face.
Well, I mean, and that's the episode where we find out what it really is about, right? I mean,
I can't believe Wesley allows Giles to even be in the room. He's undermining him constantly.
Well, I mean, that's the thing of like, why does Wesley set up shop in Giles's shop?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
You lazy bastard.
That's
where maybe he knows
are.
Maybe he knows that if he like opened up an office, that like Buffy just would never show up.
I think it's interesting that the Watcher's office is right by the Hellmouth. I mean, that's fascinating.
Absolutely.
SOBs.
I said this is a big episode for Buffy Faith shippers, which I believe is Fuffy.
Is it Fluffy or Fluffy?
Oh, it might be. What's the?
Why would
L
it be
from?
Fluffy?
It sounds better.
But is it in the text? It's certainly in the subtext, but I don't know. Did the writers write this on purpose, I guess?
The heart on the window is really unmistakable, but I was thinking about this a lot today, and I feel like, there's definitely an element of like, this is a lesbian relationship in the subtext, and we can't do it out loud because it's the 90s and that would be, fraught in all these ways. And so we're going to put it in the subtext and all the things that means. But I also think that it's also really interesting to read this as a platonic relationship between two straight ladies who are using because the scene where they're dancing and they're surrounded by men, but they're facing each other. Right, that they're sort of like they're one of the things they're bonding over. Like if you just read it straight, right? Like one of the things they're bonding over is their shared objectification of men, right? Which is not that is also transgressive, and is not something you see on TV that much. And I like even reading it that way, like just reading it what's on the page. That's still kind of really interesting, and it's a different kind of relationship than we're used to seeing.
It's a tricky in the opening because like Faith is talking about Xander, but the way that script is written in the beginning, which is talking about like wanting to do something with your friends or whatever, it totally seems like she's hinting at her. They're gonna have a relationship, and until she says like Xander, like I assumed it was like, oh whoa, this is like a strong lesbian come on like right away. Whoa, this is not where I expected the show to go. And then of course it's like misdirect. It's about Xander,
but it also is like it's a clear misdirect, right? It's like it's written with like the idea that the audience would think that they're talking about each other, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, the show is definitely enjoying it. the playing with the idea.
The heart on the window, I think, is probably a misdirect. Is there any? It's like not really great iconography. There's not great iconography for like a friendship. Right. So the heart is something that we all understand. It doesn't necessarily mean sexual attraction. It could mean platonic love, but there's not like
This
another
isn't Japan.
right.
In Japan, the heart is very platonic.
Right. So this could be this. I mean, I'm just not sure there's another icon that I would draw that would be like friendship. Exactly. Other than, some
Hands, shaking hands.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot harder to draw on the window. She'd have to really. Hands are one of the hardest things to draw, right? Like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So I don't. To me, it didn't necessarily. I think maybe it was just sort of like.
The symbol of friendship is a waffle. That's like.
She should have thrown her a waffle.
I will not waffle on my love of waffles.
Or a cat. Cat would be a good symbol.
That could be read a different way. Faith also calls Buffy girlfriend like 2 or 3 times in the script.
Mm.
She's already so familiar calling her B. Hey, B.
Yeah.
All right.
So I've kind of already covered my last one, but I just wrote this long, stupid sentence that one of the themes for this episode is doubles. Giles meets his with Wesley, who, being so stuffy, allows Giles to be cooler and looser. Buffy and Faith mirror each other, and Faith's anti-authoritarian position at first seems to push Buffy the other way, we have to obey the Watchers Council, and then into the extreme opposite of crime. But is there a middle road? So I think we've kind of hit all of what I just said. But
I think is there a middle road though is a good question. I mean, I think I'm not sure the show really sees it that way, but that's how I'm seeing it right now.
Yeah, we'll find out if there's a middle road. I mean, I feel like Buffy was more operating in a middle road before than she is now, right? I was shocked she would obey Wesley at all. And she doesn't even really seem to that much.
She's kind of wise. I mean, I think she's coming at it from the idea that the reason that she's alive is that she's a team, right? And a team includes Giles, even though he sucks, and Wesley, even though he's going to be amazing. And
the show has completely forgiven Giles, by the way.
I never totally forgot about that whole sequence. So, yeah, that's bizarre. But I think that's why, to me, that's how I can rationalize it. And she's been brainwashed by these men, and she has no father. I mean, I don't know what to say. There's no rational explanation for any of her behavior. She should be just like Faith right now.
And with that, let's move on to predictions.
Okay, predictions. So, at the moment, Mike is currently at 68.18. If anyone's interested, the math actually works out to 68.18 repeating. Anyhow,
I'm so interested in that.
Is that 1.18 or 0.888888?
68.1818181818.
Is it 1.21 gigawatts?
All right. So, some things we want to talk about. In season 1, episode 6, Mike predicts that Xander will have sex with a monster that he doesn't know is a monster. Now, is it possible that, knowing what we know now, that Faith is a kind of monster? Does anybody want to make the case for that, or are we just going to leave this one the way it is? I think,
I feel very this was one of those things. Obviously, last week we couldn't talk about this,
right?
And I was like, my favorite thing is monsters. Is also a really good graphic novel people should read. So it's hard for me to be like, say somebody's a monster in a bad way, since I love monsters so much.
Right. I think Mike didn't mean a metaphorical monster. I think we can give him credit. He meant a literal monster.
Yeah, the way the show has literal monsters.
Yeah.
We're
going to leave that open for now, I think, because he may still have sex with a monster.
I believe Xander will have sex with a monster. It's only a matter of time. Faith is not
okay. In season 2, episode 17, Mike predicts that Buffy will never get back together with Angel except in her dreams. So, it's very ambiguous the degree to which they're back together. What do you guys think? Are they back together?
Dude, they are a couple at this point. I am calling it. This is such coupley behavior.
It's coupley, but it's coupley. I don't know if it's couple.
Rachel, what do you think?
Well, there's that one sequence in the club in this episode where she's dancing with Faith, and then she sees Angel and she goes over to him, and he was like, no, go hang out with your friends. And then she hugs him and she gets really cuddly on his shoulder, and she's sort of like, you know, like she's on Molly or something, and like, like loving and holding on to him. And he kind of puts up with it for a second. He's like, no, but I'm trying to talk shop. Like, don't be so, you know, on my shoulder. And he pulls himself away and sits across from her to talk business. And that sequence to me, I was like, nah, he's not into it. But like,
I think that's an excellent body language point. And yeah, I think you're right.
It could have just been like in that moment where he was like, no, this is super serious. We need to be serious. Work time, not coupley time.
Yeah. Because they end that sequence with just the way that they kiss is so, to me, casual and like not, and like just very in a relationship-y kiss, right?
No, I agree. And
it's like saying I love you before hanging up on the phone, kind of like that level.
And so I think it's, you know, they're definitely on their way to being back together if they're not, but I think there's a more distinct line in the sand between business and pleasure now than there probably used to be.
Well, Travis is away from the camera for a minute, so we need a decisive vote. I vote they're not back together, although, you know, I'd love to not deny Mike a prediction because that makes me happy, but I think they're not back together. Dennis says they are back together. I think, Rachel, you have the deciding vote.
I'm going to say not yet.
Okay, we're going to leave that one open.
All right, yeah, because even if Travis...
it's complicated. Their Facebook status would be a 10.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, season 2, episode 22, Mike predicts that Buffy is going to fight the police again. Now, does she directly fight the police? I think she does, right?
Are you kidding?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
That was not a question.
All right, okay. So that's confirmed. So well done, Mike.
Yeah, she can't help it. She's
Travis is back. Do we want to ask him this question just to see where he lands on it?
Okay, yeah, Travis, do you think that Buffy and Angel are back together?
Yes.
Oh. So that splits it.
Travis, you and me.
That splits the vote. It's 2-2. We need a tiebreaker.
I vote that they're not in a relationship.
All right. Well, here's the thing. Here's what I say. I say that we leave it open for now. But if anybody wants to tweet at us and register a vote, they should just do that.
At Buffy Virgin Pod.
We'll know the answer in 4 episodes.
Okay.
Oh, man. Can't help it.
Okay. All right. Season 3, episode 5, Mike predicts that Trick and the Mayor will only have one caper together before their partnerships ends, which they had in season 3, episode 6. They had their one. And then is this a caper together? I feel like it is.
Totally.
So this is denied.
It's totally a B story.
Do we have a
Barely.
sound effect for that?
The very next episode after this, Mike predicted, and I want to point this out, that Trick's next caper, which would be this caper, will be his last. So if we see Trick again having a caper, that one will be denied. It's not yet, because he could disappear. We may never see Trick again.
No. I think this is an ongoing caper. I would count working for the mayor as an ongoing caper.
Wait, everything he does for the mayor is a single caper?
This whole ascension thing? Yes. That's my opinion.
I think that Trick is a freelancer and has to submit an invoice for like every single caper he does. So this would be a separate caper.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, when we see Trick again, if we ever see Trick again. Okay. This one is not open or closed, but I wanted to point out that Mike predicted in season 3, episode 7, that the Watcher Council will apologize in season 3 for not warning about Gwendolyn Price. Now, Gwendolyn Price is mentioned, and Wesley declines the opportunity to apologize on behalf of the Watchers Council. He's just like, oh yeah, Gwendolyn Price. We all heard about it.
He did say it was unfortunate. Let me bring up the script.
Does he say unfortunate?
But he's definitely not. It's not an apology.
It's not an apology. Yeah.
It's not an apology in any case, I don't think. What's the line, Mike? What's he actually say?
Oh, hold on. It's not a full apology, though.
Because Mike totally predicted this when he thought the Watchers Council was like a benevolent organization that would do like the good thing.
Well, I assume they're benevolent because Giles is such a stand-up guy, but that is not.
That ain't true.
Gwendolyn. Oh yes, Gwendolyn Post. We all heard. No, Mr. Giles has checked my credentials rather thoroughly and phoned the council. I'm glad to see you're on the ball as well.
Yep.
Good Slayer is a cautious Slayer. Yeah, he doesn't say shit.
He doesn't apologize at all. All right. So that one's still open because the apology could be coming. All right.
I'm going to apologize for this Wesley character as well. But yeah.
In the same episode, Mike predicted that a new Watcher will appear for Faith in season 3. And I think that Wesley sees himself as a Watcher for Faith as much as for Buffy. So I think that one is confirmed.
Yes.
Great.
No, he's also definitely Faith's Watcher.
And he predicted that the new Watcher will be British. That's another confirmation for Mike. There's a fun thing here about, has anybody ever read the Sarah Vowell essay, The Nerd Voice? Where she talks about, it's really good. She talks about different ways, like rhetorically, to be a nerd. And she talks about like why Al Gore lost the 2000 election because he like didn't know how to be a nerd in public properly. It's a really good essay. And she talks about Buffy, how Willow is much better at being a nerd in public than Al Gore. And she talks about casting Wesley and like how, I forget who she talks. She talks to one of the writers, and there was a writer who wanted Wesley to be American and wanted to base him on George Stephanopoulos, but they decided that Watchers had to be British to be effective as characters. So that's a good essay. The Nerd Voice.
Is it spoiler free? Can anyone read it?
I think it is spoiler free for you at this point, Mike. I would have to give it another read to be 100% sure.
Yeah, just drop it in the Slack channel if it is. I'd love to read it.
Yeah. Okay. Giles will be missing some. This is season 3, episode 11. Mike predicts Giles will be missing some knowledge in the future because he will be missing books. Now, I want to make a case for this one because Giles is sitting there and Wesley's like, oh, did he have 2 swords, one long and one short? And Giles is like, that sounds kind of familiar. And and Wesley's like, here, it should be. It's in this book. And at that point, Wesley is unpacking his books in the background.
Also, I want to point out Wesley only has like 2 boxes of books.
Yes.
That's not a lot for a Watcher.
Well, he is lecturing about how in the new school, watching is not all about book learning.
How is he so unprepared for actual battle and actual battle? That's the case. Like,
so can I confirm that one? I mean, that's kind of on a slim information, but I kind of want to confirm that one. What do you guys say?
Don't have any proof that it's not in any of Giles's books. He just
That's true.
Off the
That's
top of his
true.
head.
That is true.
It's a different book. I think you should confirm it. Mike needs a win here.
Hey guys, appreciate it.
It's an edge call, but I think it's the right move.
Okay, well, the wins keep piling up for Mike because Mike also predicted in season 3, episode 12, that the new Watcher will not be a good father figure. I think we can confirm that.
That's a weird one.
He hasn't drugged her. He hasn't lied to her.
Oh gosh,
It's only been an episode.
And this one's interesting. I don't think we can open it. I don't think we can close this one. I think this one's going to stay open. But like, Mike predicted in season 3, episode 13, that Xander will tell people about his Faith hookup. And specifically that Faith will get slut-shamed by Xander. So I'm kind of, it hasn't happened yet. Could still happen. Didn't happen in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, people know about it though.
Yeah.
Xander's barely holding it together.
I guess you can definitely confirm the fact that the new Watcher won't be a father figure to Buffy because he's too young to be her father. So by definition, Mike has that. Yeah. Oh yeah, by very definition, he got the prediction.
Does one need to be old enough to be a literal father in order to be a father figure? Is that?
Or, good, but it's neither.
Okay, so...
you can't be my father figure, John. You're older than me. Also,
happy birthday, John.
Oh yeah.
Hold on a second. Just want to make sure I'm getting all the record keeping going on here. So I believe that Mike got quite a few confirmations there. That's more than better than he's done in a while.
Thank you.
That brings
one denial was denied.
That brings Mike back up to 69.4. So he's back up to 69, dudes.
Thanks.
I enjoy it a lot now knowing why you say it that way.
All right.
So my new predictions.
New predictions.
Faith isn't going to figure out how to use a bow. I don't see it happening. It requires too much patience.
Crossbow.
Any kind of bow.
Any kind of bow. I don't think the mayor is going to make it through to season 4. I think the mayor character, we got to deal with an invincible mayor. This is too scary.
Okay.
This has got to be a season 3 situation. Faith is going to face the consequences for killing a human in Consequences, the next episode called Consequences.
A bold choice, Mike. A bold choice.
It won't resolve things. You're just predicting that she's going to face some consequences.
Also, I believe mostly based, I actually had the opposite prediction at the start of this episode, but now having seen people's excitement about Wesley, I believe this watcher is going to make it to season 4, is going to be around at least until season 4. I don't know when he's gone or off the show, but I initially thought he was going to get murdered in season 3. But after seeing everyone's excitement about him, no way. This guy's in. He's around. It's fun to have a nerd that's kind of scared of vampires. And that would have been Xander. But now that Xander's leveled up, Wesley can appear and be the new nerd that gets picked on and doesn't know what's going on, but occasionally get people out of a jam. So Wesley will be around into season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my predictions. Also, to add to the Buffy drinking game, whenever the mayor does something childish, take a drink.
All right, cool. That is predictions. So let's move on to my kill count. So I counted 15 vampires that got staked this episode, which is probably like our highest vampire staking in a long time. And then 1 demon and 1 human. Poor Alan. And now let's move on to recommendations. So my recommendations, and Rachel, I don't know if you thought of any.
Nothing that wasn't already listed.
We're not allowed to think of them, so.
Specific episodes of Bones don't count as recommendations. Because Buffy and Faith almost got arrested, that would have spun off into a woman in prison movie. And the best woman in prison movie is The Big Dollhouse with Pam Grier, set in the Philippines. Really good. Roger Corman. That's like a 100% recommend if you want to get into women in prison movies, which I am definitely into. Reform Schoolgirl from 1950, not Reform School Girls from 1989.
Is that like Alien and Aliens?
Yeah. But Reform Schoolgirl is your classic kind of like 1950s like code movie that's like about the dangers of being a bad girl and vague hinted at evils of lesbianism. So it just really fits with this movie. I also recommend the 1996 movie Foxfire, which was filmed in Portland. And Mike, I think you might just enjoy it as a Portlander to see Portland landscapes. But it's a movie I first watched with John. And it's got a young Angelina Jolie. And
really young. It's like her first movie, right?
Yeah, first or second. And it's very much like this storyline, but without the vampires or the superpowers. There's even like a scene where like Angelina Jolie's character like disrupts a biology class, and they're like, "You can't get away with that, young lady," and she's like, "I don't even go here." And then she jumps out the window. Wow! So it's like so similar. Then I gotta recommend Blade because that's got the fat vampire, and I'm going to recommend The Blob because he's also a big blob.
Okay, can you confirm the
Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door, all around the wall.
Can you confirm the year of the blob that you would like to recommend? Is it the 80s blob? It's pretty rad music too.
Sorry, the Blob theme song is so good.
It is so good.
Burt Bacharach, by the way, wrote that.
No shit. Wow.
I thought it was by the 5 Blobs.
It is the 5 Blobs, but Burt Bacharach wrote it.
I recommend the Steve McQueen version.
Okay,
yes.
And then what year Reform Schoolgirls?
1950.
Okay, yeah, I got to try this again. I put in the wrong years. There's like 3 Reform Schoolgirls to choose from.
Yeah, that's why it's Reform School Girl.
Oh, thank you. And the Blob from the 1958.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
All right. Do we have anything else going on? Any housekeeping?
I have a new vlog. It's you can follow me on YouTube, Michael Poley, MICHALPOLEY. I think it's just YouTube/Michael Poley, and you can see this vlog. It's a lot of weird personal stories as it is explore all my many hobbies.
I've been enjoying it.
Thanks, John.
Rachel, what are you up to, and where can people find your stuff?
Generally speaking, you can find my work online at Mixtape Comics and FrankieComics.com. Those are two separate URLs, mixtapecomics.com and frankiecomics.com. Mixtape Comics is my personal portfolio where you can find an archive of all my previous work, the licensed work that you had mentioned earlier, as well as anthologies and self-published works. Frankie Comics is specifically my cat-centric webcomic about my cat, but I also do regular stats comics for The Nib at thenib.com.
Yes. Cool. And are you going to any conventions anytime soon?
I'm kind of taking this year off from conventions. I'm doing a couple of local things here in LA. On February 11th, there's going to be a comic and zine art show at UCB on Sunset, the Upright Citizens Brigade, their coffee shop, Inner Sanctum. And so I'll be there with my mini comics and zines and that sort of stuff. But other than that, I won't be tabling again, I don't think, until SPX in the fall, in September. Though I will be walking around WonderCon and Comic-Con. So
cool. Yeah, I'll see you at Comic-Con.
Okay, cool.
I'm going this year. And you can find my stuff online at DennisComics.com. I'm on Twitter, Dennis Comics. My Patreon is Dennis St. John. And you can buy my comics, The Land of Many Monsters and Many More Monster Tales, and Amelia, both on Amazon. So thank you guys. And you can find Buffy Virgin on Twitter at Buffy Virgin Pod, Instagram Buffy Virgin, YouTube is Buffy Virgin, Facebook is Buffy Virgin, and I think that's it. So have a good night, and thanks for listening to our therapy session, as always.
Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door, all around the wall. A splotch, a blotch, be careful of the blob.
I love it so much.
That fits the tone of that movie too, right?
Oh, totally, yeah. The movie's not super self-serious, yeah.
Yeah.
But the 80s one is serious.
More serious, yeah.
More serious, yeah.
The funny thing about the 50s one is it ends with they throw the blob into the Antarctic to freeze it, and they're like, we'll be safe now as long as there's ice.
God, there's that great effect shot in that where they're in the diner, and if you like look at it, you can tell it's like a cutout photo of the diner.
Yeah,
like they have a photo of the backdrop, and then they have a photo that they've cut out of the stools in the foreground, and the blob's going between. And on the one hand, it's totally cheap. On the other hand, it looks really good.
Yeah, there's whatever theater that the blob like shoots that running out scene in, like every year plays the blob. And,
yeah, that's like a thing,
and like recreates that photo with the audience. So that's pretty neat.